GRC
Okay,
foundations and IT essentials, right? Yeah.
right. Yeah. Okay. So this is the first slide that I'll use to get you a basic understanding of what GRC is. Like what I mentioned, uh, the points that we will be covering. So mostly it would be
Mhm.
me talking. You can keep reading the slides as well, ask questions wherever you feel so, but this is pretty basic. And like I mentioned, I mean,
Mhm.
boring stuff, but again, this is from where the fundamental starts, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, coming to the introduction to GRC, uh, everyone knows it stands for governance, risk, and compliance, right? Uh, Generally, whenever you are going for an interview, people would ask that just define GRC. What exactly is GRC? So the second bullet point is
Mhm.
very important, which mentions that it's a strategic approach to align business objectives with the IT and regulatory compliance. People will ask you
Okay.
what are the business objectives. Okay, so you tell me, Adarsh. I mean, what do you think generally a business objective is? Let's say for a company like Capgemini or a company like
Mhm.
Facebook, Google. What's the business objective?
So from my understanding, I would say the basic business objective of any IT companies or any healthcare industry, right? To protect the sensitive data of their customers.
That is secondary, Adarsh. First comes is the business, right? What would you do protecting the data and everything if you cannot do business? So let's say for a product company, for Google, for take for example AWS, Amazon,
Mhm.
their business objective is to increase their sales, right? They want more people to jump to
Yeah,
AWS
okay.
cloud, use their products and everything. That's their business objective.
Right.
But can they sell a dime of software if that is not compliant or if it has faults or if it can be hacked or anything? People won't use it at all, right? So this is where
Right.
GRC comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Okay.
You got
Like
my
you mean
point,
to
right?
say to scale the products, it should be compliant. Like it should be meeting the standards of uh, uh, of this right GRCs. That is what you meant,
Right,
right?
right. Yeah. On a
Mhm.
high level, yes. See, let's say
Okay.
if today if you are using Myntra, Swiggy or Zomato, you are pretty confident that
Mhm.
you are storing your card data, you are mentioning your home address, phone number, email, everything there's on Zomato, Myntra, etc. Right? Let's say if tomorrow a
Mhm.
breach happens and Zomato declares that all our data is now stolen, you would be very worried using Zomato next time, correct? You
Okay. Yeah.
probably you will shift from Zomato to some other application because you are not that confident about using Zomato anymore. So today
Mhm.
privacy information security is more of a reputational thing rather than just a financial loss or something. So it's more of a reputational game right now. And any
Yeah.
business in any industry, you talked about IT, healthcare, I would say any industry, XYZ industry, any industry needs to be compliant, needs to make sure that their information security practices are up to mark because that's where the industry is moving, right? Today a customer will move away from
Mhm.
you if he even if he finds a slight whisker of doubt in your products that the data is not safe, the product is not safe, so
Mhm.
the customer will just go away and find a new service provider or a new product. So this is where
Yeah.
GRC comes in. So I hope
Yeah,
if
I got your
someone
point.
asks
Like
you
being
tomorrow,
compliant will
yeah,
gain the customer trust, right?
correct, correct. It's more about the
Mhm.
reputation of a company. So yeah, customer trust is
Mhm.
a very good point. Uh, Especially in today's world, if you look at tech companies, they don't call the security teams as such. They call it the customer trust teams. Like the let's say if I'm working for Splunk slash Cisco, my team is called the customer trust team. We build the trust with our customers. We are the providers for that. So if
Mhm.
tomorrow someone asks you what exactly is GRC, you give them this answer that
भाई तूने ये जो
it's a
चार
very
घंटे
strategic
बर्बाद किए
approach
हैं
to
ना ये
aligning business objectives with the IT and regulatory compliance. Then you can further deep dive and mention the second and third point, which says that it helps organizations to establish policies, procedures, controls to manage risks and meet legal requirements. Okay, so uh, I mean, it's very start of the course, but I just want to highlight to you that anything that you see in your company, anything, any process, let's say if someone has told you that uh, there's a biometric, there's a formal dress code, how many leaves you can take or anything,
Mm-hmm.
everything needs a policy and or a SOP, right? You cannot do
Yeah.
anything without a policy or something. So GRC governance is that part of GRC which helps in formulating those policies, defining a system within the company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
so are we good here?
Yeah. Like I'm
Okay,
clear with this part.
okay. Now, coming to why GRC matters, I think I have already answered it, but I'll just read it again. So, reduces the risk related to security breaches, fraud, regulatory violations. So, let's say if I'm talking about GDPR, you might be knowing the fines that are there. So, either it is 4% of the annual turnover or somewhere around 10 to $15 million. You can imagine it's a big impact to any company. I mean, even if
Right.
we pay fines, you would under, even if you are earning, let's say 50,000, 1 lakh, if you have to pay 10,000 to a policeman, you definitely feel pretty bad about it, right? So just
Yeah.
extrapolate that. If you are earning in billions and you have to pay in millions, it's very difficult for anyone to pay out of their pockets. So this is why
Yeah.
GRC matters the most. You need, in today's world, no matter where you are working, even in India, there are different regulations. If you go to any other country, there are different regulations, and anything that you want to sell, anything that you want to do in that particular country, you need to be compliant to their regulatory
Government
regulatory
policies. Yeah.
yeah, right. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing. Second point, we already discussed about corporate reputation and trust among stakeholders. So stakeholders could be the customers, board of members, CEO. I mean, everyone. Stakeholders could be
Directors.
yeah, various number of people. So yeah. Now coming to the third point, helps in achieving regulatory compliance with standards like ISO, NIST, GDPR, HIPAA, etc., SOC 1, SOC 2, SOX. So once you have defined a very good governance GRC system, so that
Mm-hmm.
enables you to be compliant to many other certifications by default. So let's say, I'm just giving you example here. See, NIST is one of the holy grails of compliance. Okay, if you are a NIST compliant company, you are by
Mm-hmm.
default, almost 80% of your controls are covered for ISO 27001 as well. Around 70, 75, 80% of controls are covered for your SOC 2 certification. Around 50% of controls are covered for your SOC 1 certification. GDPR and HIPAA I'll leave out because these are more specific to region and this one is more specific to the industry. So I'll leave out these,
Health
but
industries. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. So
Mm-hmm.
this is what GRC enables you to do. I mean, once you have developed a very good GRC system, it will automatically, let's say if today I'm compliant for ISO 27001, tomorrow I want to go for a GDPR, definitely many of my controls will overlap. If at least 30%, I would say, if I am ISO 27001 compliant, I can very assuredly say that my workload is only 70%. 30% I am covered through ISO. So this is why this helps a lot. Okay.
So hers like ISO and NIST, these are the frameworks, right? Or kind of standards.
These are best practices.
These are the best practices that are like
Best
followed by the
practices.
industries.
Yeah. So
Okay.
NIST is a standard, NIST
Mm.
CSF 2.0 currently, and it has around, I guess, 800 controls in that. I do not have the exact number, but it's somewhere around that 800. So if you are any
Mm-hmm.
company, in any company, you won't be compliant to all the 800 controls. But out of those 800, based on your company size, based on the processes, you pick
their
out a bunch
requirement.
of
Yeah.
controls. Correct. It's
Hmm.
tailor made mostly. So
Yeah.
that's why this is a best practice standard. It's not a hard and fast standard.
And these are
Okay, like
common among all the like these two ISO and NIST. These are common among all the this one organizations, or there are some other standards also.
see, ISO has many variations. ISO has 27,001,
Okay.
20,000 something, 24,000 something, 25,000 something. So all those are for different requirements. So ISO 27001 is
Okay.
ISMS, Information Security Management System. This is one of the most common
Okay.
standard that you will find in most of the companies because it is the information security management system. It is the most crucial one. So if I'm talking about any other
Hmm.
ISO standard, uh, it's like, let's say if I'm talking about 24,000 something, so it's about just backup and disaster recovery. So it's a standard specific to backup and
Okay.
disaster recovery. Okay, and NIST is something
Okay,
that
so
was
this all
developed
will be
in the
coming under the ISO part, right? Like the ISO family, it will be coming, right? 24,000, 27,000. So it will be coming
correct,
under that.
correct. Right, right.
Okay.
But the
Hmm.
most important one is the 27,001, which is mentioned here. If you are
Okay.
compliant to this one, because ISO 27001 already has controls around BCP, few other standards that are there, they are just more deep dived into a particular section. So this covers
Hmm.
all the areas, but those are more specific to a particular area.
Okay.
Okay.
And one more thing you
Oh,
mentioned, like between ISO and NIST, there are a few similarities, right? 40 to 50% is of similar, right?
correct.
Then what is the difference? Like difference will be coming under the controls, like they will be having different controls, or what is the difference between these two?
So see, NIST is a framework. Okay. NIST is
Hmm.
something that let's say if you are building a company today, if you follow the NIST guidelines, it's a framework, it's a best
Hmm.
practices framework. If you follow NIST, you will set up a very good governance setup in your company. Okay. But let's say if you are providing some service to your customer, let's say if I am your customer, for me to believe that you are doing a good job managing my data, managing everyone else's data. I cannot I cannot go on your word that, okay, boss, I have referred to NIST and I have implemented the NIST controls. I want someone to certify that. Okay, someone external, not you. Getting my point?
Hmm.
So
Yeah, yeah.
this ISO 27001, it's a certification which is given by an external party. A third party auditor would give you the ISO 27001 basis the audit that he carries out. And then you can show me, I'm your customer, you can show me, see boss, this is the certification I have got from the auditor, which validates my ISMS system is very efficient and effectively working. That's where I gain confidence in you.
Okay.
Understood?
Got it. Yeah, got it.
Okay. Yeah. So just give it some time. I would say just hold your uh, a few thoughts that you're still having. Those will be answered. Just bear with me.
Sure, sure. Sure.
Moving to the next slide. So these are just terminologies. Governance is a framework for decision making, policies, and internal control. Governance is the most, I would say, the first step towards building a GRC system. You need to decide on what policies you are going to have, what internal controls, how you are going to manage the entire company. Then comes the risk part, where you identify, assess, and mitigate risk to business objectives. So let's say, I would just give you an example. We can go through that later in the course. For example, if you are setting up a company today, okay, uh, let's say you are based out of Gujarat, okay, you have your data centers in Gujarat. Okay. But for one reason, I know that Gujarat is quite prone to earthquakes. Okay. How
Yeah.
do it's a risk, right? If any earthquake happens, your data center would be collapsed and mostly all your data center data would go away. correct?
Right.
How would you minimize that risk? Can you put down your thoughts?
Uh, so maybe if my data is residing in one data center, so maybe I will be having my data in another kind of another data center, so that
Right.
if
So
something happens to
backups.
this region, yeah, backup kind of, yeah, DR, the disaster recovery, right? So we can plan
Correct.
in that way.
Exactly. So that's how you have identified one risk. You have assessed
Mhm.
what exactly is my risk, how it can impact me, whether it's a customer impacting risk or a business impacting risk, and then you find a mitigating solution to that, that you would do backups.
Okay.
Correct. I would suggest,
Mhm.
if someone
Right.
asks me today, in today's world, what I would suggest is go for cloud. Host your data on AWS. You are totally free of your
Yeah.
data. AWS will take care of the
Mhm.
backups, will take care of the availability zones and everything. So you are just, uh, you are free of all the requirements of maintaining a data center. Correct?
Yeah, physical data center. Right.
Yeah. So that's what risk management means. You identify a risk, you assess its impact, and then you find a mitigating
Mhm.
solution to that. We'll come to risks more later in the
Okay.
session, I guess module 3. But yeah, this is just to give you an overview. Then comes compliance. Compliance is basically adhering to laws, regulations, and industry standards. I think we have spoken about this in detail. Uh, Anything on this slide you would want to ask?
Uh, no, I'm good with this governance, risk, and compliance. The fourth point, can you touch base once?
So control
Structured approach to
framework
the
is
managing.
like
Yeah.
I mentioned.
Mhm.
So it's a very structured approach to managing security risks and compliance. I mean, you need to have a framework first before you, let's say if you are, so see, anything that I'm telling you right now, you take it as an example if you are building your own company today. Okay. Don't look at Amazon or
Mhm.
Google, which already have their processes in place. Imagine Google 30 years back when Google was just a startup. Okay. You cannot, let's say if you're starting up a company today, you cannot just go ahead and define controls for everyone. Okay, that you need to, let's say every user needs to have approvals before they get access to some system. You cannot just tell that to people.
Mhm.
You have to make a framework around that first. Identify what are
Yes.
the processes that are there. Basis the processes, you define your controls. Basis the controls, you give them a rating, whether it's a entity level control or just a service level control, and basis that you define your entire framework. So this is about it.
Okay.
Okay.
So COSO and COBIT are also kind of frameworks only. Like we have a ISO and NIST.
COSO,
So COSO and COBIT is also
right. So COSO is a very,
okay.
very old framework. I mean, Uh, it was used somewhere when the dot-com bubble was blowing up in the US and even in India. So COSO is a
Okay.
very, very old framework, but yeah, it's still considered as the what I can say. It's still considered as the baseline for most of our frameworks, because it was like you would understand, right? Anything that is developed earlier is kind of considered as a base. So in
Mm-hmm.
today's world, I don't see anyone referring to any of the COSO principles or anything, but it's just there. People might ask you, let's say if you are going for an interview tomorrow, high chances that people will just ask you very randomly, can you tell me a few things about COSO? Can you just highlight what is COBIT? These are just touch upon questions. They won't deep dive into anything. They will just touch upon these points. Okay. So
Okay.
whenever you
So
are
COBIT is
preparing
also
for an
old one,
interview,
like legacy framework.
very old, I guess 20, 30
Okay.
years back. So that is fine. Anyway, what I was saying
Mhm.
is, whenever you are going for any interviews for GRC, Always just
Mhm.
read about COSO COBIT, maybe watch a YouTube video. So this is the COSO framework overview. This is the full form. Committee or sponsoring organization is a model for internal controls. So it focuses on five key components: control environment, risk assessment, control activities, information communication, and monitoring. And just very quickly touch upon all these five components. So, control environment is the foundation of internal control systems, which means the
Mhm.
control environment is the organization's ethical values, integrity, role of management, accountability structures, and responsibility assignments. So, this is what control environment is. Coming to risk assessment, you already know, right? Identifying both the
Yeah.
internal, external risks, conducting risk assessments regularly, determining the impact and likelihood. So make a note in your brain. Anyone asks you what is risk, risk is equal to
Mhm.
impact into likelihood. I think this point is very clear. So
Yeah.
and then comes the part where you need to
Office
implement
politics can
measures to
ruin your
manage and
career
mitigate
and
the
block the
risks. So we'll
opportunities you
come to
deserve
risks later,
if you
like I
don't know.
mentioned. Control activities is basically the IT and security controls that
Hello,
are there.
everyone. Today's
Okay,
topic is
you
Microsoft
need to
Azure
define
Administrator
controls.
Associate Training. Welcome to
Then only
GoLogica.
you can
Now we
have
discuss the
a
Microsoft
system
Azure
in place.
Administrator Associate Certification
Coming to
course.
information and
Roadmap.
communication, so it
About
is
course.
basically the effective
Prerequisites.
communication between
Eligibility criteria.
departments. It is the
Roles,
communication
responsibilities,
between
and
you and your
salaries.
customers,
Training
your
program.
stakeholders.
Now we
So
are discussing
let
about
me
the
tell you
Microsoft
a
Azure
very
Administrator
generic point.
Associate
Let's say
course. The Microsoft
any
Azure
if any
Administrator
breach
Associate
happens today to
Certification
Zomato,
AS
have you heard about certain
four.
Mhm.
CERT in
No,
Computer
Harsh.
Emergency Response Team India? So certain is a government body.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything related
Okay.
to IT breaches or anything in India, certain is responsible to look at. A few years
Okay.
back, I think you have seen my LinkedIn profile, right? Just go
Mhm.
and look at a few articles that I have written previously. I had written one article about certain, their new regulations. So, which says that if any
Okay.
breach happens to your company, you need to report it within 6 hours of the breach. It's a very unfair
Within six
and
hours.
within
Okay.
6 hours. So it's a very unfair ask, I would say. In the US,
Mhm.
this is generally 72 hours because this gives you time to at least analyze what happens, right? Because in let's say
Yeah.
today Zomato get hit by a ransomware or some attack. I mean, I don't see a point of responding to this in 6 hours. Maybe the risk is mitigated. Maybe that it's not such a harm to me. Maybe the data is not that. Maybe the data loss is not that significant or something. I should have time to respond.
Mhm.
But in the US, it's
Yeah.
72 hours. But certain has given Indian
Mhm.
companies like 6 hours only. So it's very unfair. But this is where communication part comes in. So you need to communicate to your customers, you need to communicate to your stakeholders that a breach has happened. Okay,
Oh,
let's say if
okay.
you are going, you would have seen in your company, if any system is going for a planned maintenance, you would get a mail, right,
Yeah.
that this would not be
Yeah,
working.
in
Even
advance we
your
will be getting a
banks.
mail. Yeah.
Correct. So this is where communication and information comes into picture. Information is also paper documentation and reporting mechanisms. But yeah, that's about it. And
Mhm.
then monitoring activities. So let me tell you a very important point. Make a note of it. Whenever you are talking
Mhm.
about compliance to anyone, always mention continuous monitoring. Okay. Whenever you are implementing a new system, whenever you are implementing any controls, whenever you are auditing any controls, you need to have a monitoring control as
For
well,
other regions would be kind of
which
not.
monitors on a timely basis that whether the control is working fine or not. So that's where monitoring comes in. Okay. Why do we have
Okay.
regular audits? Why is it mandated to have a SOX audit every year? Why? it should have been like in 10 years we are having one audit, maybe in 5 years we are having one audit, correct?
Yeah.
but
Create
but
your own
why
website
we are
with
having
ease
it
using
regularly
Hostinger
within
AI
one
website
year?
builder.
Even in
Simply
one year
describe
there are
what you need
certain
in the
times
prompt.
when we are having 6 months audit. Every 6 months we are having an audit. Why? You got the answer, right?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I understood.
Okay. So yeah, this is uh, mostly about uh, COSO. Why is it important? It's used for SOX compliance. I mean, SOX is, since SOX is also a very old standard, it was based out of COSO. And then this provides a structured approach to risk identification and mitigation. So what you need to understand is, let's say if someone, see, I'm giving you interview tips while going through the course as well. So you need to be very vigilant about it. Okay. People will ask you about
Yeah.
COSO COVID. Very briefly, they will just touch upon it. What you don't need to make them
Mhm.
understand the full form, explain all the principles or anything. You just need to give them a very high level answer. This is COSO. This is what it is used for. These are the components. And at last, why is it important? Okay, why are we referring to COSO? Why are you even asking this question to me if it is not important? So that's where you need to mention why is it important.
Okay.
Okay. So
Mhm.
the last point which is mentioned here helps in achieving operational efficiency, reliable reporting, compliance with regulations. So these are the reasons for which COSO is very important.
Got it. Okay.
Uh, any questions on this slide or should we move ahead?
Mm, we can move to the next slide. Yeah.
Okay. So see, whichever session that I am taking, the next day I'll keep the day free for you to
Mhm.
go through that session once again, maybe look at the PPT, form your understanding. Because see, if I go in haste, definitely I won't have any problem, but definitely you may face challenges, correct? Because I can go on my
Yeah.
pace, and at the end of the course you would have grabbed around 30%, 40%, but I want you to grab somewhere around 70, 80, even 90%. So for that, it's
Mhm.
very important for you to absorb what I'm sharing in one session. And I think to keep the next day free would make sense. uh, Let me know
Yeah,
if
we
you
can keep a one
also
day gap. Yeah, like
correct.
we can keep a one day gap, Harsh. Like it will also take me, to learn these jargons. I need to understand more. I need to invest my time also here.
Right,
So I will
correct.
go like once you have completed, I will go to the recording once. I will prepare my own notes also. And if I have any doubt,
Exactly.
I can, ask in the beginning of the next session. So we
Sure,
can
sure.
proceed like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
that works. Okay. Now coming to COBIT. So
Copy.
COBIT is a framework for IT governance and management. And as mentioned here, it bridges the gap between business risks, technical issues, control requirements. Again, this is a very old standard developed by ISACA. ISACA is a certifying
Mhm.
body. So it's an old standard. And this is just to
Mhm.
manage your IT risks effectively, ensuring security, optimizing your IT resources. So COVID is all about IT. Okay, IT, aligning IT with the business strategy. Okay,
Okay.
today
Aligning IT with the business
the
strategies. Okay.
in today's era, everything is related. Any company that you are working for or any company that you see, it's somehow dependent on IT, right? I mean, without the
Yeah.
laptops, without the servers, without the networks, cloud, nothing can work, right? So somehow or the other, your business strategy is reliant on IT, and COBIT is a framework for IT.
Hmm.
Okay, and
Okay.
it's similar to COSO. It has again five core principles. First is meeting the stakeholders' need. So this ensures that IT supports business objectives, meets stakeholders' expectations, optimize resource use and risk management, how much you should be investing in IT, that should again be aligned to your business goals. So this is where meeting the stakeholder needs comes from. Coming to the second
Mhm.
point, covering the enterprise end to end. So it means that IT governance is not just an IT department function. It covers all business processes, services, and infrastructure. Okay, it
Okay, across the
basically
organization, you mean, right?
correct. Yeah, it
Okay.
cannot be solely just the IT department, right? Because
Mhm.
somehow, let's say if I'm talking about cloud, even let you are
Right.
working for Capgemini, right? For
42 lakhs
something
per
or the
annum.
other, you
Wow,
would be logging
42
into
lakhs,
cloud,
that's your
and
salary?
so are
Yes.
all other
And what
employees,
do you do?
60,000,
I'm an
70,000 employees, whichever you have. They all must be logging to a cloud server. It's an IT asset, right?
Mhm.
A cloud server. But it's not just
Mhm.
the IT department's function. It's it's the business process at Capgemini, correct? It's the business infrastructure.
Right.
Coming to my third point, applying a single integrated framework. So COVID integrates with other frameworks like ISO, NIST, COSO, ITIL. Have you heard about ITIL?
Uh, ITIL, I have heard about it, but I have not like in depth. I don't know about this one. ITIL
Okay, so it's
foundations.
Information Technology
Mhm.
Infrastructure Library. Uh, it's again a globally
Okay.
recognized IT services management framework, but let's leave that for now. Uh,
Mhm.
Basically, COVID single integrated framework means you need to prepare a framework, like I mentioned, right? If you are using NIST, you are already sufficing
Mhm.
some of the control requirement for ISO, some other requirements for SOC 1, SOC 2, etc. So that's a single integrated
Right.
framework approach. Okay, you
Mhm.
like in our company, we have created one cloud control framework. So whichever new product that we launch, it is already compliant to that cloud control framework. So that's where the single
Okay.
integrated framework comes from. You need to have
Mhm.
one, maybe two, maybe three, but you need to have a very comprehensive framework so that it covers most of your requirements. Then comes the part of
Got it.
enabling a holistic approach. So this is just English. I mean, uh, holistic approach is how do you manage everything else? It should not be like we discussed, right? It should not be just the IT department. It should be aligned to the business processes, services, etc. So that's having an holistic approach over everything. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then separating governance from management. So what this means is governance is basically led by the board. Okay, the board of directors, CEOs, CIOs, someone, and they ensure value
Mhm.
delivery, risk management, stakeholder alignment. While whereas management is handled by IT teams, so executing plans, monitoring performances, ensuring operational efficiency. So let's say if you are working with your manager or senior manager, he would have different set of things to look at and you would have different set of things to look at, right? You would be looking at more operational things, he would be looking at more
Yeah.
value delivery or stakeholder alignment things. So that's this point is talking about separating
Yeah, like
governance
my
from
roles and
management.
responsibilities obviously will be different. Yeah. Uh,
Correct,
mhm.
exactly. So moving ahead, any questions here? You can read about COVID, and again same tip for interviews. Just
Mhm.
read about COVID, explain what is it, why is it important, and then the five principles, which I can tell you with my experience, no one is interested to hear. But yeah, you should know.
I'm working in the IT
Mhm.
industry. I have
I will
18
go
years
through
of
this
work experience, but I
COSO
am
and COVID, right?
underpaid.
I will learn
Cloud
about it.
Right.
engineer is
Yeah. Coming to the fundamentals of IT audit. So see, any audit that we are doing, GRC is basically composed of audits. You define controls, you define policies, you define everything in your company. But who is going to attest you on that? Who is going to give you confirmation on that? You can tell me that you have the utmost best practices that is followed within the industry in your company, but how do I believe in your words? Correct. I would need
Yes.
someone to give me that confirmation, to audit that fact, and then tell me that boss, this guy is right.
builds and
He has
maintains Django
implemented the best practices in his company.
Mhm.
Correct.
Right. Yep.
So this is where IT audit comes in. Anything related to GRC, you would see an audit for that. Just that's why I told you in the very first call that we had, if you remember, you were talking about GRC tools and everything. But I told you that you
Mhm.
start from audits, then you go to tools. Correct. First
Yeah.
thing first is
Right.
where
Yeah.
you do audits for your company, for different companies. You design controls, you test on controls, you check
Mhm.
the risk, you do risk assessments. Once you are very thorough with that, then you jump into the GRC tool. No one is going to let you even touch the GRC tool if you don't have experience on the audit side. So this is the entry
Right.
point
Yeah.
for you as a GRC analyst. Getting very good in
Mhm.
audits, asking the right questions, looking at the right things.
Mhm.
Okay, you can have a read at the slide. IT audit is a process for evaluating organizations, infra, application. So you see the word evaluating here, right? This is the one, this is
Mhm.
important, evaluating. How would I
Mhm.
know that you have implemented controls? That's where I evaluate them. Okay. It
Okay.
ensures compliance with regulatory frameworks and business objectives, objectives of IT audit, identify security vulnerabilities. So anything that is not as per the policy or any such vulnerability that I see in your system. So I need to identify that, assess data
Yeah.
integrity, whatever you are presenting to me, or let's say anything that you are presenting to the government. How do we present
Hello,
the
everyone.
integrity of our
Welcome to
incomes?
GoLogica
How
Data
do we
Science with Python
present
training,
that to the government
an
through income
in-depth
tax?
information.
Correct. So that's
Let us
that's why
discuss what
audits
is
are
data
requirement
science
for
with Python
information
roadmap.
systems to make
About
sure the that you are actually following what you are saying. Ensure
Mhm.
IT governance effectiveness and improve operational efficiency. So if you do all these things, definitely your efficiency would all improve by default. So this is all about the fundamentals of IT
So,
audit.
one
Yeah.
question here, Harsh, like you mentioned about the access data integrity, right? So, does it mean
Mhm.
like when we are sharing our data to any third party, the data should be in a protected format, or that is what you meant, right? Or it
No,
is
no,
Hey,
something
no.
else?
hi.
It's
So can
it's
you make a
it's not
website
about
using
that.
Python in
That
15
is one
minutes?
in
aspect of
15
it,
minutes?
what you mentioned.
Impossible.
But let's
this
say,
is
Mhm.
what is
advantageous.
data integrity? If you are making a sales of, let's say, 1,000 rupees in 1 month in your company, okay, but your billing software is somewhere saying that the sale was 10,000 rupees, correct?
Okay.
Then you have lost your
Uh-huh.
integrity there. It
Okay, means data should be
got me point.
consistent.
Data should be
Okay,
very consistent. What you talked about while
got it.
sharing
Uh-huh.
the data with someone else, that's privacy. That what you are
Mm-hmm.
sharing should be very careful about that. But integrity
Mm-hmm.
is making sure that whatever you are presenting is right. If you are telling me that the
Mm-hmm.
company, you must have heard companies uh, in their financial reports they tell the revenue, profit, EBITDA, everything, right? If it's not audited,
Mm-hmm.
how can someone print that and print that to the public? How would SEBI rely on that?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Right.
That's where data integrity comes into picture.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Got it.
Okay. Moving ahead, so IT audit scope includes ITGCs, application controls, ITACs, data security, BCP, DR. These are the scopes which we'll definitely talk about in module 2. So ITGC, ITACs, these are mostly for our SOX audit, SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley, And then what are the methodologies? So risk-based audit approach, compliance audit approach, control-based. So risk-based is, let's say, no one has told you to go for an audit, but like the example I gave you, right? Gujarat, you know that it's a risky area.
Contains
So
Django
that's how
apps,
you are
AVG.
identifying your risks
Salary?
throughout the company. Let's say if tomorrow Capgemini tells you that you can work on your own devices, you can use your personal laptop for working. That's a risk, right? Someone needs to
Yeah.
audit that. So that would be a risk-based audit approach. Compliance audit approach is you are going for a specific certification. Okay. Someone told you that we want the SOC 2 report from you. That's where you would go for a compliance audit approach. And controls based is mostly again using the framework. So let's say if you are using NIST, then you have a NIST framework which has 800 controls. Then you are auditing your systems based on the controls that are mentioned there.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. ITGC, ITAX will touch upon. These are bit, these require individual time and separate discussions. So as of now, just read through them.
Sure.
Anything on this slide?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. Coming to the next slide, IT audit and GRC relationship. So IT audit plays a crucial role in GRC by ensuring internal controls and risk management effectiveness. Any audit that you will be going through or you will be conducting, what you ultimately give is that the control is working effectively. So that's why it's mentioned the word effectiveness. If you tell the auditor or you tell within your
मेरा
company
नाम
that the
पार्वती है,
control
मैं
is not
भिलाई
effective,
छत्तीसगढ़ से हूँ।
it means
मैंने
that the risk
YouTube
is
में
still
सर
there.
का
You
वीडियो
need to
देखा और
mitigate that.
जैसे ही मैंने दूध बंद किया, दूध के प्रोडक्ट बंद किए 2 दिन में
Okay. We
Contains
already
Django
talked
apps,
about GRC
AVG.
and IT audit relationship. So basically, it's evaluating whatever you are saying. If you are telling me that you are NIST compliant, let me evaluate that. That's where IT audit comes to picture. Okay.
Okay.
And then again, these are repetitive points: identify vulnerabilities, monitor risks, align with IT operations. Strengthening collaboration between GRC and IT audit leads to better risk management and compliance outcomes.
So
Okay,
basically, IT audit will be evaluating all that we have mentioned in our GRC system, right?
correct. Correct. Whatever you
Okay.
have defined as part of your GRC, someone needs to validate that, and that validation would come in the form of audits.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, this is the uh, last slide. I
Best
mean,
practice.
this is a general slide, I would say. Uh, what are the best practices? So establishing clear policies, procedures. Like I mentioned, anything in compliance starts with a policy or a procedure. If you don't have these, you fail the control then and there. So when I was an external auditor, there's a thing you can note it
Mhm.
down. There's a thing called test of design, and then we do a test of effectiveness.
Test of design and what's the other one? Test of
Test
effectiveness.
of
Okay.
effectiveness, TOD and TOE. Okay,
Okay.
these are very common terms which you'll come across when once you start working as a GRC analyst or something. So a TOD is a test of design. Can you tell me what could it mean? Design.
Uh, I may be wrong, okay, but what I think is test of design, maybe design of the framework,
Design of the control. Okay. TOD
design
and
of the
TOE
controls,
is
okay.
only for the controls, not for framework
How
or anything.
effective your okay, and test of effectiveness is how efficient your uh, controls are working, right?
Correct. So test of design
Okay.
is how effectively you have designed your control, which is mentioned in the policy,
Okay.
right? I cannot understand the design of your control through its working. I can understand the design of your control through the policy. Once I get to the test of effectiveness, where I'll check in the system whether it is working fine or not, that's my test of effectiveness. Okay.
Got it.
Second point is implement a continuous monitoring process. This thing I told you is very important. Whenever you are giving
Yeah.
interviews for any tech company, mention this point. I mean, they are quite, they do like candidates who mention this point. Continuous monitoring process. Use
So,
automation
like,
for,
is there any
yeah.
tool for this, or how it is
No,
done?
no, no.
Continuous monitoring.
So see, in our company, we monitor controls through Jira. Okay, there are no specific tools. There
Okay.
are different companies, they do follow different things. But continuous monitoring is basically making sure that your controls are up to date. You are monitoring whether they are working as per your expectations or not. You cannot just design something and
Okay.
leave it on its own to work, right? You have to monitor it to make sure that it's working fine. And that's where internal audits come into picture. You might have heard or you might
Okay.
have come across this even in your company. Someone might, someone from the compliance team might have reached out to you saying that, uh, are you taking approvals? Any production system changes that you are pushing, have you taken approvals for that? So those are our internal checks, which is a part of continuous monitoring.
Okay.
Got your point?
Yeah, yeah. Understood.
Okay. Then automation for compliance tracking and reporting. So this is a bit high level for you as of now. Let's keep that aside. Ensure alignment between IT audit findings and business risk management. So if you go for an audit, definitely there would be findings as well. Correct. Let's say if my policy says that anyone who leaves the company, let's say if you are leaving Capgemini tomorrow, Capgemini should disable your account within 24 hours. Okay. But many a times you'll see, once you are an auditor, you'll see companies, many a times they do not comply to this particular policy or this particular control. The revocation you would see has been done 48 hours after the employee has left the company. So these are my findings. Okay. I can, let's say, uh, we do a sampling based approach while doing the audits. I'll just give you a very brief idea what we generally do. Let's say there's an audit period defined for every audit. Okay, it's not like we'll go back to 2020 and ask you for that. There's an audit period defined and it happens every year. So let's say for 2025 you are going for an audit in November of 2025. I, as an auditor, will come. I will ask you to share all the data of list of all the employees who have left Capgemini between January till November of 2025. Okay.
Okay.
For a company like Capgemini, a random guess would at least give me a figure of 8,000 to 5,000 employees leaving the organization in 11 months. Correct? Some 5,000, 8,000 leave, some 5,000, 8,000 join every year. So
Right.
among those 8,000, obviously you cannot check for all those samples, right? What you would do is you
Yeah.
pick samples. Out of those 8,000, generally we pick around 25 or 45 samples. For those 45 employees, you will check their last working day and when was their ID disabled. That's how you can conclude on that particular control as an auditor.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And then the last part is foster collaboration between IT compliance business teams for a holistic approach. So this is again I would say a generic point. So okay. So this was my first set of slides. The session is already recorded, so you can have a look at them as well. I have one more slide for this session. Okay, awesome. So yeah, I'll just move. So see, like I told you, COBIT is a very old principle, a very old framework, 1977.
Mhm.
This is just to give you an information. So,
Mhm.
and then how ISACA was formed. So it was earlier named as EDPAA, and then
Mhm.
they changed the name in 1994 to ISACA. Very generic
Mhm.
information. No one is going to even ask you this ever. This is just some information, okay?
Mhm.
Coming to definition of auditing, systematic process by which a competent independent person objectively obtains and evaluates evidence regarding assertions about an economic entity or event of the person of forming an opinion about and reporting on the degree to which the assertion conforms to an identified set of standards. Very I would say complex language, but you got my
Yeah.
point, right? I told you
Yeah, I
to
understood,
focus
but
on
yeah.
evaluate. Yeah,
Evaluates, yeah.
yes. Then coming to definition of IT auditing, information technology audit is an examination of management controls within an IT infrastructure. Okay.
Mhm.
IT audits, also known as automated data processing audits, ADP. This was pretty previous nomenclature. I think I should remove these all from my slides as well because no one uses the word computer anymore. They have moved on to cloud and everything. So this is just for information.
Mhm.
Uh, Moving ahead, auditors agree to support the implementation of appropriate policies. Auditors agree to perform their duty with objectivity, professional care. So while I was working, I'll give you a real life example. While I was working at KPMG, okay,
Mhm.
KPMG is an auditing firm, correct?
Mhm.
All of the
Right.
big fours, they are primarily auditing firms: EY, Deloitte, KPMG, PwC.
Mhm.
In any auditing firm, while I was going on audits, IT audits, I needed to declare my independence from my client. Have you heard this term before?
Declare my independence from the client.
Yes.
Uh,
So let's say while I was at
mhm.
KPMG, I was given my
Mhm.
client was Reliance. Okay. My client was Tata Motors. I used to go and
Mhm.
audit Tata Motors. Okay.
Mhm.
Before going onto that engagement as an external auditor, see, external auditor is a
Mhm.
very important person. If tomorrow, if you
Mhm.
join KPMG, for example, and you are going for
Mhm.
an external audit, the client will
Mhm.
feed you throughout the day. He'll take care of you. He will offer you drinks.
Yeah,
He will try to
I have
befriend
seen
you
that
so
in
that,
I've
correct.
seen that, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So, but before sending you, KPMG would want some independence declaration from you. What is that independence? You tell KPMG before you go on to
Mhm.
that Tata Motors engagement that you
Mhm.
have no associations with Tata Motors. Okay.
Oh, okay,
Neither
okay.
your father is the CEO there, nor your uncle works there. You don't own stocks of Tata Motors. You don't have investments in Tata Motors. You don't have any personal connections with someone important in Tata Motors. So these are my personal independence that I gave every time whenever going for an audit while at KPMG. So
So these
you
are the
would
declarements
assume,
that you have to provide to the current company. Like I don't have any
correct.
association with this. Okay,
Right. So
okay.
see,
Uh,
KPMG, if KPMG is being the auditor of Tata Motors,
mhm.
obviously you have, are you an investor? Do you invest in stock market or something?
Yeah, I have invested in Tata Motors. That's why actually I'm asking. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
So while
uh.
have you referred to any of the financial reports of Tata Motors? You must know, right? Every year a financial report comes in.
Yeah, but I've not gone through that like fundamentals. But yeah, like I know about that report. Yeah.
Next time you are looking at the Tata Motors finance. Next time, what? Tomorrow, look at the Tata Motors financial report. It's available on the net. See who is the
Mhm.
auditor. You would find some company's name there. You would find
Okay.
the partner signing off on that report. So let's say if
Uh,
KPMG is doing the audit for Tata Motors, it's the
uh,
ownership is on KPMG to make sure that it is doing the right thing in the eyes of SEBI. SEBI is our regulator, right, for stock markets.
Regulatory board. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Correct. So if
Mhm.
SEBI notices something unusual going on, that KPMG
Mhm.
is sending the CEO of Tata Motors, his son is going for the audit from KPMG, definitely he would be
Mhm.
biased. Correct.
Biased.
So
Yeah.
that's
Right.
that's where the ethics part comes in for an auditor. Okay.
Okay.
So this slide you can have a look later, but this is all about the auditor's professional ethics. While we
Mhm.
were going for audits, we were told specifically by our managers, even this is in the policies for many of the companies, you cannot
Mhm.
accept gifts more than, let's say, of 10,000 of worth from your clients. So while we were going on
Mhm.
audits, there were times when the not Indian clients, but European clients or US clients, they used to offer us gifts.
Mhm.
Okay, but we had to say no if if it fall if the cost was more than 10,000. So that's the
Mhm.
level of ethics, because if today you will take the gift, definitely this will be highlighted sometime in some of the meetings that okay, Harsh took one gift from us, and then your manager will come asking to you, and it's a long process. So that's where the ethics
Mhm.
come into picture. Okay, have a
Okay.
look at
Mhm.
this slide later. Nothing important. I have given you the gist. So
Yeah.
independence
Understood.
is the key word here.
Mhm.
What auditor does to find if there's a policy in place. This is my test of
Mhm.
design.
Mhm.
Controls comply with the policy. This is my test of effectiveness.
Effectiveness.
And adheres to the standards and compliances. This is the third part where you check, let's say if you are saying that you are auditing GDPR controls, first you would look at the GDPR standard, then you would test the design of the control, whether it is as per my GDPR standard, and then you would test the test of effectiveness of that control.
Effectiveness.
Okay.
Okay.
In short, ensuring existence of policy procedures, check implementation, adhering to procedures, standards, compliance. Goal objective of the audit is communicating the result of review business process to interested users. So interested users would be your stakeholders, board of
Mhm.
members, their clients and everything. Report the deficiencies
Mhm.
to board of directors, if any, conducted with a view of expressing an informed and credible opinion in a written report. So audit reports are very well documented. Okay. And
Mhm.
the opinion should be very credible. I mean, the person who is going for an audit, sometimes even that person is interviewed before the audit. So whenever any new client came for us, we were first interviewed by the clients before we could go on audit to their environment, okay, to their company.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now, the thing that is written in red, audit is not a surprise check, it is a very planned one. It is not policing over what is happening, it is not to find a fraud. Okay,
Mhm.
this is just to make sure that whether you are compliant to standard compliances or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Audit benefits, I have already told you: organization level ensuring commitment, operational risk management, commercial level credibility and confidence, financial level reduced costs,
Reduce
because
cost.
obviously you are saving on
The fine
penalties
and
and
all. Yeah.
everything. Correct.
Mhm.
Human level improved employee awareness. Today you are aware that a service request needs to be raised before pushing any change. That's awareness for you,
Mhm.
right? And this is because of the audit. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done it. It's an extra effort for
Mhm.
you.
Right.
Legal level, it's for compliance. Classification of audits: financial, operational, integrated, forensic, investigative, compliance, and IS audits. These are pretty generic. You can read through them. No one is ever going to ask
Mhm,
you this, but for the sake of the course, I have kept it here in the PPT. Okay.
mhm,
Financial audit is what you see CAs doing. CAs do the financial audit. So I'll give you a, rather than going through the slides, I'll give you a very real time example. While we were going for audit of Tata Motors, okay,
mhm,
I'll take that company as example. While we were going for the audit, definitely my background is not, I'm not a chartered accountant, correct? I
yeah.
cannot audit any company on their financials, their EBITDA, their debt to equity,
Mhm,
their revenues, how are they managing their XIRR, etc., etc. I cannot
mhm.
do that audit. So the CAs in any firm, you would find CAs as well in any
CS will
accounting
be there.
firm.
Mhm,
They used to do the financial part of the audit. Okay.
mhm,
And because in any company today, how do you think the financials are maintained? Are they keeping in their khata or something, book or something? No. Everything is on
no.
system today, on some application. There we
Ah,
came in as IT auditors. We used to audit those
okay.
systems.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
बुक पे और किताब पे तो आज के डेट में कुछ भी नहीं हो रहा है ना. एवरीथिंग इज हैपनिंग
हाँ,
on some
on the
application,
system
some tool.
level, yeah.
Correct.
Mhm,
Let's say you would have heard about SAP. So SAP is a very exhaustive ERP tool. ERP is Enterprise Risk Management ERP program
mhm,
something. So
mhm,
SAP में everything gets recorded. Your sales, what volumes you are doing, what capitals you have, how much is
mhm,
your employee strength, what is the salary you are distributing, everything is there in SAP.
mhm.
So the CAs, वो लोग SAP के financials के numbers का audit करते थे. Okay.
Okay, okay.
And I, as an IT auditor, my job was to audit the system SAP, the application. My function was to make sure कि SAP में कोई गड़बड़ तो नहीं है. Let's say, like I mentioned to
हाँ,
you about integrity, that let's say SAP में ही error है कि मेरे सेल्स हैं 1 लाख करोड़ के, बट SAP दिखा रहा है 100,000 करोड़, तो डिफरेंस हो गया ना फिर वहां पे. तो मेरा
right.
काम ये होता है एज एन IT ऑडिटर, which would be your job as well, that you need to look at the system, what
Mhm,
application they are using, whether that application has relevant controls or not. Okay,
mhm,
so that's about the audit. You can read through this slide. Financial is review the financial statements and everything. Okay,
mhm.
operational audit is
Yesterday,
basically, yeah.
yesterday actually मुझे यही डाउट आया था कि कल एक्चुअली आई वाज गोइंग थ्रू वन ऑफ द वीडियो, तो वहां पे एक सीसा का सर्टिफिकेशन कोर्स था
Mm-hmm.
जो चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट भी कर रहे थे. एक्चुअली एक सीए ही एक्सप्लेन कर रहा था
Mm-hmm.
उसके बारे में, सीसा कोर्स के बारे में. So I
Correct,
was thinking like,
correct.
what will be the difference? Like I'm not from a commerce background and I'm not a CA.
Mm-hmm.
So what
Mm-hmm.
auditing I will be doing and what auditing a CA will be doing. So ये अभी
करेक्ट.
आपने ही बोल दिया इस पर. Yeah, okay.
हाँ, तो किसी भी फर्म में यही होता है. मतलब
Hmm.
केपीएमजी का एक डिफरेंट एंटिटी है, सिस्टर कंपनी आई वुड से. केपीएमजी इज द पेरेंट कंपनी, सिस्टर एंटिटी इज बीएसआर affiliates. So BSR
Hmm.
affiliates is all comprised of CAs only. They would go in for
Okay.
the financial audit. They take help from KPMG to do the IT audit for them, to
IT
give.
audits. Okay.
Yeah, they are not IT guys, right? They are financial guys.
Hmm.
They can tell you
Hmm.
that, okay boss, your revenue and sales is not matching up, but they
हाँ.
cannot dig into the system making sure कि भाई तुम्हारा BCP हो रहा है कि नहीं, तुम्हारा access control है
Hmm.
कि नहीं, whether you are following a change
Hmm.
management process or not, whether you are running jobs or
Password
not.
management.
करेक्ट.
Yeah.
ये सब भाई उनके आउट ऑफ स्कोप है उनके लिए. वहां पे हम लोग का काम है.
समझा. Okay.
ठीक है.
हम्म.
Then this is operational audit, future-oriented, systematic, independent evaluation. You can have a look. These are just, no one is going to ask you about this. You can read at your own
हम्म.
pace. Okay.
ठीक है.
Integrated is where you combine both operational and department reviews, IS audit. Everything is integrated. Forensic is different. Forensic, I have never done any forensic audit, to be honest with you. Forensic is a
हम्म.
different department in each of the companies. Forensic happens when there is a non-conformity or a fraud that has happened. Okay.
हम्म.
जब कहीं पे कुछ गड़बड़ होगा ना, तब forensic audit
हम्म.
होती है, otherwise नहीं. So forensic is where you examine things once they have already happened. Auditing is a sanitizing check. The IT audits that
Okay.
we do, it's a sanitization check key, whether you are doing things right or not as per the standards, as per the expectations. But forensic audit is something where something has been compromised or a fraud has been committed, and then you are doing a review of what went wrong, who did wrong, and how he
हम्म.
did that wrong. Okay, that's forensic audit.
हम्म. Okay.
So it's a type of audit. Investigative audit is audit that takes place as a result of unusual or suspicious activity. So the example that I gave you before, let's say Capgemini में ऐसा rule है that if an employee leaves 24 hours में, his ID should be disabled. Okay?
Right. हम्म.
You left the company, but your ID was disabled after 3 days. ठीक है, 72 hours हो
हम्म.
गए, तुम्हारा ID तब तक you could log into the system. ठीक है.
हम्म.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, you could log into the system for 3 days even when you have left
हम्म.
Capgemini.
Left the company.
Okay.
हाँ हाँ हाँ.
Someone noticed in the audit, first thing, how I'll tell you the auditor's way of looking at things. When I used to do
हम्म.
audit, I picked Adarsh as a sample. I
हम्म.
checked कि आदर्श का लास्ट वर्किंग डे था 16th मार्च. ठीक है.
हम्म.
As per the company policy, which is my test of design, I noticed कि आदर्श का ID 24 hours
17th
में,
of March.
let's say
हाँ.
17th of March तक ID डिसेबल हो जाना चाहिए था. I noticed in the report जो मेरे को तुम्हारी ही कंपनी देगी, कैपजेमिनाई ने जो रिपोर्ट दिया आईडी डिसेबल का, उसमें लिखा हुआ था कि आदर्श का आईडी डिसेबल हुआ 20th of March को. ठीक है. It would raise an observation for me. I would want to investigate that further. कि भाई तुमने तो पहले तो तुम्हारा डिजाइन फेल हो गया, तुमने जो डिजाइन किया हुआ है that 24 hours में रेवोकेशन होना चाहिए वो नहीं हुआ है. I should look into this further. What would I look for? You tell me. अगर किसी बंदे का आईडी टाइम से लेट डिसेबल हुआ तो उसमें रिस्क क्या है? What is the risk I am looking for?
कुछ भी हो सकता है. देखिए, they can misuse the ID to take the information or
Correct.
leak the informations. हाँ.
Correct. They can do, because since you are now leaving
They can manipulate the
Capgemini, you are
data. Yes.
exactly, you can do whatever you want. You can delete something, you can push something that is
Right.
not approved or something. So you can do many things.
हम्म.
So my second check would be, मैं देखूंगा कि इस बंदे का जो डेल्टा पीरियड है within his last working day and his ID disabled date, did he log in into the system? Did he log in
Yeah.
into the Capgemini portal? If no, well and good. I will just tell the company that, boss, your design has failed. Although there is no major risk to the company because the employee never logged in after his last working date, but
हाँ.
there was a failure in your design. Okay.
Okay. So shall we call it a residual risk? वैसे कुछ था ना कि
नहीं नहीं
we
नहीं,
can live with that risk.
रेसिडुअल ये नहीं है, ये एक रिस्क है.
हाँ.
ठीक है. that you are not terminating or disabling IDs within time.
हाँ.
Okay, don't
Okay.
go for that terminologies as of now. Just understand.
हाँ.
Okay.
हाँ.
तो मैंने चेक किया कि बंदे ने कभी लॉग इन किया है या नहीं, उसने नहीं किया है, इट्स फाइन, मैं बोल दूंगा कि आपका डिजाइन फेल हो रहा है, ठीक है।
ओके।
बट बट अगर कैप जेमिनी के साइड में मेरे जैसा कोई बंदा बैठा होगा जो जीआरसी बहुत दिन से कर रहा है, बहुत सालों से कर रहा है, मैं बोलूंगा बॉस यू कैन नॉट फेल आवर डिजाइन एज वेल। नाउ यू वुड आस्क कि डिजाइन तो फेल हो रहा है, 24 आवर्स में रेवोकेशन नहीं हुआ। I would tell him that there's a compensating control as well in my organization, where we make sure that we collect the laptops from the employee on the last working day. And our systems cannot be accessed without our laptops or using the VPNs. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे मैंने काउंटर किया, ऑल्दो मेरा एक कंट्रोल फेल हो रहा था, लेकिन मैंने उसको एक कॉम्पेंसेटिंग कंट्रोल से काउंटर किया कि बॉस बंदे के पास अगर लैपटॉप ही नहीं है, उसके पास वीपीएन एक्सेस ही नहीं है, तो वो जाएगा कहाँ,
कैसे लॉग इन
करेक्ट।
करें? हाँ, ओके। हाँ।
तो ये मेरा इन्वेस्टिगेटिव ऑडिट है, ओके, कि
ओके,
कुछ एक
ओके।
गलत चीज हुई, फिर मैं उस पे देख रहा हूँ कि व्हाट आई कैन डू, ठीक है। मूविंग एट, compliance audit is what we have discussed till now. Anything related to compliance is compliance audit. Objectives यही है, safeguard assets, data integrity,
इंटीग्रिटी।
effectiveness, IT contribution to business goals. ये लाइन ना याद रखना, टेक कंपनीज में ये सब लाइन ना बहुत चिपकाना पड़ता है कि बिजनेस गोल्स के अकॉर्डिंगली ही हम लोग को चलना है एंड एवरीथिंग, and then making sure that IT resources are consumed optimally. Okay.
IT resources
So
can be
this
automatically, okay.
brings to the end of my second slide. Now there's a third slide as well. I'll share my screen very quickly.
So IT
Okay.
resources के अंडर सिस्टम नेटवर्क्स ये आएंगे ना, एम्प्लॉयज?
हाँ हाँ।
हाँ, ओके।
Now coming to the last slide, which is a bit lengthy one, but इसको भी मैं जल्दी ही wrap up करूंगा क्योंकि this is mostly about terms and terminologies and everything. Let me know if my screen is visible.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. So this is the IT audit terminologies. You can have a look, you can read through them. These are very generic. If you are going for an analyst interview, even then I don't see anyone asking these questions these days, but it's good to know, right? मतलब पढ़
Okay.
लेना, good for you. तो ऑडिट क्या है, ऑडिट क्राइटेरिया क्या होता है, ठीक है। What are audit evidences, record statements? What is audit finding? Result of evaluation of the collection of audit evidence against audit criteria. Audit findings indicate conformity or non-conformity. Conformity is all good, non-conformity is not good. Okay. Audit findings can lead to identification of opportunities for improvements or recording good practices. If the audit criteria are selected from legal or other requirements, the audit finding is termed compliant or non-compliance. Okay. क्राइटेरिया अगर तुम्हारा लीगल साइड से है तो वो कॉम्प्लायंस नॉन कॉम्प्लायंस होता है, अगर वो आईटी साइड से है तो वो कन्फॉर्मिटी और नॉन कन्फॉर्मिटी होता है।
Conformity.
Generally in ISO reports we tell conformity or non-conformity with the controls, but once I am doing SOX audit, I tell whether you are compliant or not. Okay.
Okay.
Auditee is the organization that is being audited. Audit client, organization or person requesting an audit. Okay, so same thing. Okay, the audit client can also be the auditee. Auditor, person who conducts the audit.
The person.
Audit team would comprise of your managers, different other, your partner and everyone. So audit team is basically which does the planning and everything else. Moving ahead, observer. This is a concept which is now gone. Observer earlier used to be a person from the audit team but does not audit. So this has
Okay.
now evolved to a quality partner which make sure a third partner from KPMG, let's say if I and my managers, we are doing the audit for Tata Motors, some other
Hmm.
manager would evaluate whether we have done this rightly or not. Okay.
But
I
he will
am,
be also from
although
KPMG, but from
he
some
will
other
also
team.
be from, but from some other team, some other manager who is not involved in that
Uh-huh.
this particular audit. He will just make sure that
Okay.
whatever we have done is as per the KPMG standards or not. It's a quality check.
Okay.
Okay. Guide is a person or appointed by auditee to assist the audit team. So basically, whenever you go for an audit, ऐसा नहीं है कि
Yeah.
पूरी ऑफिस तुम्हारे लिए खड़ी रहेगी टाटा मोटर्स की.
There is a
There
person
would
who
be
will escort us. Huh.
one or
Hmm.
two person who would be your point of contact throughout that audit. You
Hmm.
anything, see, whenever any auditor comes to us, even within
Hmm.
our team, we decide who needs to interact with this person. Not everyone should interact. General employees
Hmm.
should never interact. It's the compliance
Hmm.
team, and someone who can handle that auditor should always be the point of contact. No one else should
Right.
speak to that auditor because you never know what he'll say. Because
What
the
he'll ask.
auditors are
Yeah.
pretty smart, yeah, or auditors are pretty smart.
Hmm.
Once I was on an audit in the office. I there was it was a BPO, okay, uh, Bajaj Group का BPO था. I asked them, the it was clear instruction that your personal phone was not allowed inside the office. I saw one
Hmm.
person with a phone. So I asked very
Okay.
casually to him, ki, do you guys, I mean, do you guys can bring phone whenever you want? He said very casually, yeah, I mean, we can bring in phones. So
Okay. So he
this
knew
should
like
not
you are
have
an auditor.
happened.
Like उसको पता था ये.
He knew, but I asked him very casually. I mean,
Okay.
I'm just telling
हाँ
you the pinpoint. I asked him what you are doing, क्या कर रहे हो, what
हाँ
do you
हाँ
generally look at. So I based my conversation on that. But
हाँ.
I
I got
asked
it. हाँ
him
हाँ.
at yeah, I asked him about this point, and he confirmed that कि मैं भी करता हूँ और बाकी लोग भी ले आते हैं
Hmm.
phone. There's not a thorough check for us. I got my point
Okay.
right. I put it in the report that people can bring in their own phones, even though it's clear
हाँ
instruction to not. So it
हाँ.
was a finding
So
that
like
I
they will इसको confront तो कर सकते हैं ना वो कि no we don't bring the phones. So you need to prove your point also that time.
no. If you are doing an
हाँ
audit, whatever you
हाँ
say, whatever you have seen, and you document that, no one can question that ever. Okay, they cannot deny
okay.
that Harsh is lying. They cannot deny. Let's
हाँ
say if you go for an audit tomorrow, you have seen
हाँ.
someone bringing pen drives, which is not allowed, and you
Hmm.
note that down, and it's not just you note it down vaguely that I saw someone with a pen drive today. No, not like that.
Hmm.
An audit report is very extensive, like I told you. You
Right.
would
Hmm.
mention on 13th March at Bajaj
Hmm.
office, I saw employee ID, employee name, using
Okay, okay.
USB, using Logitech, even the USB type you would mention using Logitech 4 GB pen drive in office, which is a prohibited. So this detailed documentation, if you do mentioning the employee name and everything, no one can deny your point.
Hmm. Okay, समझा अभी.
Okay, moving ahead, audit scope.
Sounds
Audit,
interesting, but
yeah. So audit scope is something which is very important. Whenever you are going for an audit, you first define the scope. You cannot just go to a
Hmm.
company and tell them we'll audit everything. You need to be very
Hmm.
specific with your requirements. So audit scope is very important. We will come to it later. Audit
Hmm.
plan, this is an interview question. Whenever you are giving
Hmm.
any interviews, they will ask you that tell me how did you plan for an audit? This is a question for me, given that I am from this background. If you are going in as a
Hmm.
fresher, they will ask you, tell me what do you think an audit plan comprises of? How describe me a step by step process. How would you conduct or go for an audit? So audit plan comes into picture.
Hmm.
I'll give you a detailed plan probably at the end, but even you can just do a quick Google search. It's just so any audit plan is comprised of three phases. First is the planning
Hmm.
phase, second is the testing phase, third is the reporting phase. and that's it. And last one is the follow-up. So planning phase is
Okay.
where you decide the scope of the audit. Testing phase is where you gather evidence, you test those controls, you test the evidence shared by the auditee. And then the reporting part is where you share the audit report. So this is the audit plan. You can still Google and have a better look. Okay.
Okay.
Conformity, non-conformity, I already told you. Independence, I was talking about it,
Uh,
right? The basis for
yeah, you already
imparity,
mentioned.
impartiality
Mhm.
of the audit and objectivity of audit conduct. So our auditor should be independent of the activity being audited. So I'll tell you how important is this. When I am going for an audit in Tata Motors, okay,
Mhm.
I am a stakeholder in Tata Motor. If I am
Mhm.
a stakeholder in Tata Motor, before going for the audit, I would have to sell all my stocks of Tata Motor. Okay, I cannot have even 1 rupee invested if I am going for audit of Tata Motors. Okay,
Okay.
my wife
Okay.
cannot have investments in Tata Motors. My father cannot have
That
investments
that
in
was my
Tata.
question. Like someone with your family, if they have the stocks, then what will be
No,
the answer?
no.
Okay.
Independence is very stringent. Your
Hmm.
family, you cannot have any relations with Tata Motors. Otherwise, you request. Let's say if you have, because I have done it once for one client,
Hmm.
KPIT. I don't know whether you have heard the name or not. KPIT
KPI I
Tech,
know. Yeah.
correct.
Hmm.
मेरे को उसका ऑडिट मिला था. I am a significant
Hmm.
stakeholder in KPIT, stockholder, sorry.
Hmm.
So I told my manager I cannot do this audit. I don't want to sell my stocks. There was some to
Hmm.
and fro, some back and forth, some arguments, but ultimately
Hmm.
I did not go for that audit. So that's the
Okay.
importance of independence. Okay.
Okay.
Moving ahead, internal audit. So internal audit is basically you are making sure you are making your systems ready for the external audit. It because once the auditor comes, they will dig up everything, right? So before they dig up
Hmm.
everything, it's better that you dig up everything internally. Whatever
Hmm.
inefficiencies that you can identify, you correct them before the auditor comes.
Hmm.
Okay.
सो एक इंटरनल ऑडिटर भी होता है मतलब ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जो
Correct,
ये
correct.
कंडक्ट
So
करेगा. ओके.
correct. So, देखो, the beauty of this profession is what I'll tell you.
हम्म.
Even I think developer is equally beautiful profession, but not every
हम्म.
profession is like that. For example, management consulting or anything else. वहाँ पे ना
हम्म.
management, because your friends would be in management consulting. Many of my friends are in management consulting. Whenever they are switching jobs, they again have to find a similar type of firm, a management consulting
हम्म.
firm, say similar role or something. But here, the beauty of our profession is every
हम्म.
company needs GRC compliance. Someone from in the every company has a compliance team, right? Either they
या
would be working on the external side of it, either they would be
और
working on the
इंटरनल. हाँ.
internal side of it, but
हाँ.
definitely there would be a compliance team in every organization. Even in Capgemini, you find out tomorrow, you'll find 300 people in the compliance team. Okay.
राइट. हाँ.
So we we have we can join any company irrespective of industry, whatever geography or anything, because every company
हाँ.
needs us. So that's why I like this field. And same thing goes for a developer as well, because today every
हम्म.
company is building some software, some application, so they need developers. That's why developers are in such high demand since last 10, 15
हम्म.
years, even 20.
राइट.
Okay. Moving to categories of audits. So first party audits are internal audits. You can read through it. It's a long
हम्म.
verbiage, but pretty simple. Second party audits is supplier I have mentioned, but this is, I can rename this. This is basically third party. I mean, because I have mentioned third party here as well. I
हम्म.
can edit that, but this is third party vendors or something. Okay. So
हम्म.
let's say Capgemini, if it takes its payroll services from Oracle, definitely Capgemini would want Oracle to be audited. Even before onboarding, Oracle is still a very reputed company. Let's say if you are onboarding a startup for managing your payrolls, definitely you would first conduct an audit of that startup before even giving service or before even engaging with them for any of the processes at KPMG. So that's a third party vendor or second party
Okay.
audits. And third party audits is basically certification by an external auditor. Okay, so this is where our job comes in if we join any big four firm. So third party audits involve an independent outside body coming into the organization to conduct the audit.
Got it.
Okay. Then we have the audit charter and engagement letter. So these are the things, once you start working in any of the organization, then these are important for you. Any company that is going for an audit, first they prepare an audit charter. KPMG would prepare an engagement letter that we are engaging with Tata Motors. This is our terms and conditions. This is the time frame of the audit. This is the fee we would be charging, etc. So this is all an audit charter which Tata Motors will prepare, where they'll declare, define the audit function within their company. Okay, they will tell about the internal controls that are there, what applications they are using, and everything. So I have a better slide for this. Just a second. Yeah. See what auditee prepares, what the auditor prepares. So engagement letter,
Prepares.
scopes, objectives, independence, authority to conduct independent test, accountability, etc. Auditee prepares the audit charter. They also, so the scopes and objectives are ultimately defined by the auditors, but you need to hear from your clients as well. It's a two-way process. It's not just one way. Then cooperation in providing information, cooperation and participation, findings are received by top management, discuss security measure, follow up. Okay. Whenever any auditor gives any findings to the client must provide a management response. Write this down. Write this down. This would come handy to you.
So can you repeat again?
So, whenever any auditor gives any audit findings slash observations
Gives any findings?
slash observations,
Yeah.
the client or the auditee must
Or the
provide
audit
a management response to that finding.
management response to the.
What is the management response? कि मैंने फाइंड किया कि 24 आवर्स में तुम लोग आईडी डिसेबल नहीं कर रहे हो, ये मेरा फाइंडिंग है. तुमने मैनेजमेंट रिस्पॉन्स फिर ये दिया कि हम लोग अपने
The
प्रोसेस
counter
को
will answer.
इम्प्रूव करेंगे. नहीं, काउंटर, इट्स
Okay.
नॉट ऑलवेज काउंटरिंग. इट्स समटाइम्स यू हैव टू एक्सेप्ट द फाइंडिंग एज वेल, राइट? तो काउंटर तो
Okay.
मैंने ऐसे ही बस बता दिया कि वो लोग तेजी देते हैं, बट आई एम टेलिंग यू कि यू हैव टू एक्सेप्ट दैट फाइंडिंग. You have to tell them a remediation for that and a time frame for that. कि
Okay.
ठीक
Like the
है,
improvement
हमने
plan.
24 घंटे में नहीं किया, but going forward we are going to streamline the process more. Probably we will automate this, and in the future we are going to remediate this within a quarter. We are going to implement a new process. That's your management response.
Okay.
So every
Got it.
finding
Got
should
it.
have a management response. This is very important.
Suppose there are 10 findings that you have provided them, so they will give a 10 management response to you.
Correct. 10 management response, 10
Okay.
different management response.
Different
Generally,
okay.
they keep the language generic, but again, they would address different findings.
And who generally give this management response, like the internal auditor or the
No.
GRC?
Generally,
Then?
no. The GRC teams, they work with the, let's say, the process owner. For example,
Hmm.
for example, तुम्हारे अभी तुम्हारे प्रोसेस में समवन नोटिस्ड कि पैच मैनेजमेंट सही से नहीं हो रहा है, अप्रूवल्स नहीं आए, तो
हाँ.
कैप जेमिनाई की कॉम्प्लायंस टीम ये रिप्लाई नहीं करेगी. ये कैप जेमिनाई की
Okay.
कॉम्प्लायंस टीम वुड रीच आउट टू योर टीम, योर मैनेजर और हिज मैनेजर, एंड आस्क,
हाँ.
शेयर दिस फाइंडिंग कि तुम्हारे यहाँ पे लोग सही से काम नहीं कर रहे हैं, बिना अप्रूवल के चेंज पुश हुआ है, व्हाट रिस्पॉन्स डू यू
हाँ.
वांट टू गिव फॉर दैट. सो योर मैनेजर का मैनेजर विल प्रोबेबली प्रोवाइड दिस रिस्पॉन्स, एंड दैट GRC team will further improve and put it in the and share with the report auditors, and they will include it
Okay.
in the report.
Mm-hmm.
ठीक है, बिकॉज कॉम्प्लायंस टीम डजंट नो ना कि तुम लोग क्या करने वाले हो आगे इसको ठीक करने के लिए.
Mm-hmm.
वो तो फिर एक वेग आंसर हो जाएगा.
Right.
सो compliance team always works with the control owners, the process owners, to get an understanding of what management response should we be delivering.
Okay.
Okay. Then this mandate, content of IT audit charter, you can just have a look at it. पर्पस में क्या क्या डालते हैं, ठीक है, रोल, एम, स्कोप, रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी में क्या डालते हैं, क्रिटिकल सक्सेस फैक्टर्स, परफॉर्मेंस. सो it's vague, and I mean no one is going to ask you about this until and unless you work in a company which asks you to prepare an audit charter. So it's good to know
Mm-hmm.
about it, but don't bother about it much.
Okay.
ठीक है. engagement letter, I already told you कि ये KPMG बनाएगी engagement letter, independence, agreement, dates, etc. ये रहता है. At KPMG, we used to prepare the engagement letters. मतलब I have prepared a lot of engagement letters. 15-20 पेज का
Mm-hmm.
रहेगा, जिसमें तुम
Can
क्लाइंट
I
के
get
बारे
this
में सब कुछ.
engagement letter online? Like we have a sample as a,
नहीं, I
how does
don't
it
think
look like?
any company would
Okay.
share that. You can have a look
Mm-hmm.
at any of the engagement letter at Capgemini. Find a person who works in the compliance team at Capgemini. Find someone at
Mm-hmm.
your level. Ask him that I am interested, I'm learning about it. Don't tell him that you are
Mm-hmm.
doing an online course or something, but tell him you are interested.
Mm-hmm.
Ask him to show if you have any engagement letters with any of the auditors. Probably he can help you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then comes the steps. I already told you the steps, right? Planning, testing,
Planning,
reporting,
testing,
and then
response, follow up.
follow up.
Mm-hmm.
So planning is entry, meeting, scope, controls, incident, roll forward, roll back. So this is one important concept. Uh, See, generally our audits are of 12 months. Okay, let's say January to December. Basically, in India, for Indian clients, the financial year is the audit period, starting April till March. Okay, हेलो.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hearing you.
हाँ, इसको मैं हिंदी में बताता हूँ, ठीक है.
Mm-hmm.
अपना फाइनेंशियल ईयर है अप्रैल से मार्च का, ठीक है.
Right.
तो अपना ऑडिट, जितने भी इंडियन क्लाइंट्स हैं ना, जितने भी इंडियन कंपनीज हैं, एनी लिस्टेड
Mm-hmm.
कंपनी, एनी, यू पिक एनी, सारे का ऑडिट इसी टाइम फ्रेम में होता है. अप्रैल से मार्च तक का टाइम फ्रेम कवर होता है ऑडिट में. many companies like Tata Motors, like Reliance, उनका अगर तुमने कभी फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्ट देखा होगा, जैसे
Mm-hmm.
अप्रैल आता है ना, अभी जैसे अप्रैल आएगा अगले महीने,
Mm-hmm.
उनका फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्ट पब्लिश हो जाता है, ठीक है.
Okay.
तो यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड कि उनका फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्ट ऐसा तो नहीं है ना कि मार्च में ऑडिट शुरू हुआ और अप्रैल में फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्ट फाइनल होकर उन्होंने पब्लिश कर दिया. ये पॉसिबल ही नहीं है. कम से कम ऑडिट में 3 महीने लगते हैं, 3-3.5 महीने लगते हैं एक क्लाइंट के ऑडिट पे,
Mm-hmm.
ठीक है.
Okay.
तो ये सारे ऑडिट्स ना शुरू हो जाते हैं दिसंबर जनवरी से ही, जिनका मार्च में रिपोर्टिंग है.
Okay.
ओके।
हम्म,
बट अब तुम ये चीज समझो कि मेरा पीरियड तो है मार्च तक का, मैं ऑडिट कर
हम्म,
रहा हूँ दिसंबर जनवरी में, तो मैं आगे का
हाँ
कंफर्मेशन कैसे दूंगा कि भाई मार्च तक तुम्हारे सिस्टम सही थे। ये कंफर्मेशन तो मैं टेस्ट करके नहीं दे रहा हूँ, ये तो मैं भरोसे पे दे रहा हूँ कि मैंने जनवरी तक टेस्ट किया, जनवरी तक तुम्हारा
हाँ
सिस्टम सही था, तो मैं कह रहा हूँ कि भाई तुम्हारा मार्च तक भी सिस्टम सही होगा।
हाँ,
ठीक है, दैट्स माई
हम्म,
रोल फॉरवर्ड। मैं ना अपने कंक्लूजन को
ओके,
फॉरवर्ड रोल कर रहा हूँ कि मैंने ऑडिट
हम्म,
जनवरी तक का ही किया है, बट मैं कंफर्मेशन तुम्हारे सिस्टम पे मार्च तक का दे रहा हूँ।
ओके,
ठीक है, ये होता है रोल फॉरवर्ड। इट्स अ
हम्म,
वेरी बिग फोर टर्म, किसी भी बिग फोर में जाओगे वहां ये सब बातें होती हैं, अदरवाइज कोई नहीं करेगा,
हम्म,
बट गुड टू नो
हम्म,
टाइप की चीज है ये। तो जनरली किसी भी अकाउंटिंग फर्म में ना रोल फॉरवर्ड पीरियड या रोल बैकवर्ड पीरियड 3 महीने का ही होता है। ठीक है,
ओके,
मतलब
ओके,
कि तुम दिसंबर तक के टेस्टिंग पे मार्च तक कंफर्म कर सकते हो, बट तुम नवंबर की
हम्म,
टेस्टिंग पे नहीं बोल सकते हो कि भाई मार्च तक तुम सिक्योर हो, क्योंकि वो 4 महीने हो गए। करेक्ट।
हाँ, ओके,
तो तुम
मैक्स टू मैक्स 3 मंथ्स तक होना चाहिए, हाँ।
3 months is the standard which is followed across India. Even in US I have seen कि 3 ही मंथ वो फॉलो करते हैं रोल फॉरवर्ड। तो
ओके,
रोल फॉरवर्ड का कॉन्सेप्ट समझ में आ गया, राइट?
हाँ समझ में आ गया।
कुछ कंपनीज हैं बाइजू टाइप की, बेकार कंपनीज,
हम्म,
जो
हम्म,
रोल बैक करवाती हैं। रोल बैक क्या होता है कि इन्होंने अपना ऑडिट शुरू ही नहीं करवाया दिसंबर जनवरी में अपने मार्च के रिपोर्टिंग के लिए,
हम्म,
ये आते ही हैं केपीएमजी के पास जून में, जब इनका ऑडिट पीरियड मार्च का था।
ओके,
ठीक
हाँ,
है, ये
ओके
बाद में
समझ गया
आते
अभी,
हैं।
हाँ।
हाँ, ये कहते हैं कि भाई अब मेरे को ऑडिट कर दो, और मेरे को
हम्म,
प्रीवियस ऑडिट पीरियड के प्रीवियस फाइनेंशियल ईयर का कंफर्मेशन दे दो। तो वहां पे मैं रोल बैक
ओके,
करता हूँ आगे के 3 महीने पे। ठीक है, अगर वो चौथे
ओके,
महीने आएंगे ना, मैं उनको मना कर दूंगा
हम्म,
कि भाई नहीं हो पाएगा अब।
ओके, सो
ठीक है,
रोल फॉरवर्ड 3 मंथ्स का जो
आगे,
आगे है, और जो, हाँ, और ये 3 मंथ्स
रोल
का जो
बैक
बैक
इज
वाला है ना,
थ्री
वो,
मंथ्स पीछे।
हाँ,
ठीक है, इतना डिटेल में
हाँ,
तुमसे कोई
प्रायर वाला,
पूछेगा
हाँ,
नहीं, बट कल को किसी कंपनी में ज्वाइन
बट फॉर
करते
माई
हो तो
अंडरस्टैंडिंग,
इट्स गुड
हाँ,
टू
हाँ,
नो। हाँ,
हम्म, हम्म,
ठीक है, बाकी इसमें कुछ खास नहीं है, प्लानिंग फेज में बाकी टाइम पास चीजें हैं, देख लेना हल्के में। ठीक है,
हम्म,
टेस्टिंग फेज में मीट विथ मैनेजर, डेटा क्या कलेक्ट करना है, साइट एम्प्लॉय इन्वॉल्वमेंट, आंसर क्वेश्चंस। बेसिकली टेस्टिंग में होता क्या है, टेस्टिंग में यू शेयर योर रिक्वेस्ट लिस्ट विद द क्लाइंट, they go through your
हम्म,
request list, basis your request list they will share whatever you have asked for, and then once you have got all the data you test it, and that's your testing phase.
हम्म,
Then comes the reporting phase, which is after you have conducted your testing, then you need to report that, document that, share that report with your auditee. So that's the reporting phase. ठीक है, follow up
ओके,
is review of findings which I mentioned as management response and everything, कि तुमने जो जो findings बताए हैं उन पे तुम follow up कर रहे हो। क्योंकि देखो, ऑडिटी और ऑडिटर का ऐसा रिलेशनशिप होता है ना कि वो एक बार जिस ऑडिटर को पकड़ते हैं उसको वो रखते हैं 2-3 साल, 5 साल, 3 साल, उसके
ओके,
पहले वो चेंज नहीं करते हैं। क्योंकि इसका फायदा दोनों को मिलता है। एज एन ऑडिटर, फॉर मी इट्स वेरी मच इजी फॉर मी कि भाई मैंने पिछले साल तेरा ऑडिट किया था, इस साल मैं फिर से आ रहा हूँ, मेरे को पहले से ही पता है तेरी पॉलिसीज क्या है, मैंने पिछले साल भी
क्या
देख लिया
स्टैंडर्ड्स
तेरे
थे, हाँ,
सिस्टम कितने अप्रूवल तुमको लेने पड़ते हैं किस चीज के लिए, तेरा पैच मैनेजमेंट का
हाँ, हाँ,
बंदा आदर्श है, मेरे को पता है ना। मैं अगले साल आऊंगा फिर
हम्म,
से आदर्श को बोलूंगा कि भाई लास्ट ईयर तूने जो दिया था ना परफेक्ट था, इस साल भी मेरे को
हम्म,
वही चाहिए तेरे से। तो मेरा जॉब इजी
हाँ,
हो
हाँ,
गया।
हाँ, ओके,
करेक्ट। ऑडिटी का जॉब भी इजी हो गया कि भाई उनको पता है कि वही बंदा आ रहा है। भाई मैं जब केपीएमजी में था ना, नॉट बोस्टिंग बट
हम्म,
विच एवर क्लाइंट्स आई वर्कड ऑन, नेक्स्ट ईयर
हम्म,
ऑल ऑफ देम वेर आस्किंग कि मेरे मैनेजर को कि यार हर्ष को ही भेजो। ठीक है, ही नोज आवर प्रोसेस, उसने
अच्छा,
पिछले
वो भी
साल भी
डिसाइडेड है,
बहुत
मतलब
सही।
वो कर सकते हैं कि मुझे ये बंदा चाहिए बोल के।
आइडियली ये होना नहीं चाहिए, ये ऑफ द टेबल
हाँ, वही, हाँ,
कन्वर्सेशन है, बट
हाँ, हाँ,
बट वो लोग ऐसा करते हैं। और अपना क्या है, अपने को भाई
हाँ,
रिलेशनशिप मेंटेन करना है, उनसे पैसा मिल रहा है आफ्टर
राइट,
ऑल। करेक्ट।
हाँ
तो
हाँ।
भाई मेरा मैनेजर पैसों के लिए कह रहा है कि हाँ भाई हर्षी चला जाएगा, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। मेरे को उसने बोल दिया कि
हाँ
भाई वो बंदा तेरे को ही खोज रहा है, मैं भी खुश कि
हाँ
चलो डिमांड है।
हाँ
और
हाँ
वहां जाओ,
हाँ।
फिर वो भी तुमको अच्छे से ट्रीट करेंगे कि अच्छा हर्ष, गुड टू सी यू, ये वो।
हम्म
तो ऐसा मेरे साथ तो बहुत हुआ है, ठीक है। जहां पे भी
हम्म
तुम अच्छा काम करके आओगे, लोग तुमको वापस खोजेंगे ही खोजेंगे। ये ऑडिट में बहुत कॉमन चीज है। आज भी
हम्म
मतलब मैंने छोड़ दिया केपीएमजी, अब तो मैं अपनी कंपनी का कॉम्प्लायंस ये सब देखता हूँ। बट मेरे आज भी
हम्म
कुछ क्लाइंट्स हैं जो आज भी मेरे को फोन वोन कर लेते हैं कि यार हर्ष कभी रेफर करा दे, कभी कुछ कर दे, ये सब चलते रहता है।
हम्म
तो दैट्स द काइंड ऑफ
हम्म
रिलेशनशिप यू बिल्ड एज एन ऑडिटर, ओके। तो और काफी
हम्म
मजे वाला जॉब है, मतलब जस्ट वो रिपोर्टिंग और डॉक्यूमेंटेशन वाला काम थोड़ा सा हेक्टिक हो जाता है, क्योंकि बहुत डॉक्यूमेंटेशन
हम्म
करना पड़ता है। डिटेल मैंने तुमको बताया,
हम्म।
राइट, कि एम्प्लॉई साला इतना
हाँ, ईच
लिखना
एंड
पड़ता है
एवरीथिंग,
कि यू कैन
हाँ।
नॉट, हाँ बहुत डिटेल देना पड़ता है। बट
समझ
एट
रहा हूँ
द
मैं,
एंड
हाँ।
ऑफ द डे
हम्म
जॉब बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है, क्योंकि तुमको जाके, और देखो बेस्ट पार्ट क्या था ना केपीएमजी में, कि
हम्म।
मैंने अपने 3 साल में ऑलमोस्ट वहां पे पकड़ लो, मैंने कम से कम तो 15 18 20 क्लाइंट तो जरूर देखे हैं, ठीक है, कुछ रिपीटेटिव, बट 20
ओके।
यूनिक क्लाइंट्स मैंने देखे हैं। तो यार 20
हम्म
यूनिक क्लाइंट्स के 20 यूनिक सिस्टम, 20 यूनिक टीम्स, 10 तरह के उनके लोग, 10 तरह के नए चैलेंजेस, तो मेरा एक्सपोजर बहुत बढ़िया रहा के पीएमजी में। मेरे कुछ
हाँ
कजन्स भी हैं इधर उधर, उनको मैं यही कहता हूँ ना,
हाँ।
इफ यू वांट टू स्टार्ट योर करियर, ज्वाइन अ बिग फोर फर्स्ट। वहां पे ना इतनी
हम्म
मारा मारी है ना कि तुमको जबरदस्ती सीखना पड़ेगा। मेरा मैनेजर मेरे से कहता था ना कि हर्ष कोई नया बंदा आया टीम में, वो मेरे को मैं
हम्म,
कहता था कि यार आप कैसे उसको भेज सकते हो, मतलब ही इज प्रीटी न्यू, वो
हाँ
गूगल कर करके काम करेगा। तो मेरा मैनेजर कहता था कि
हाँ।
भाई देख, बिग फोर में ना पानी में फेंकते हैं, फिर देखते हैं कि उसको स्विमिंग आता है कि नहीं, वो सीखेगा,
स्विमिंग
डूबने लगा
नहीं
तो
आता
हम
है।
लोग घुसेंगे, नहीं आया खुद से कर
हाँ
लिया तो कर लिया वाला हिसाब है। तो
हाँ हाँ हाँ।
तो ना ये चीज बहुत अच्छा है इस फील्ड का कि तुमको चांस पूरा मिलेगा। नाउ इट्स अप टू यू। तो जैसे
हम्म
मैंने जब फर्स्ट टाइम शुरू किया ये जॉब, ऑब्वियसली कोई बॉर्न
हम्म।
ऑडिटर और बॉर्न ये सब तो नहीं है जीआरसी का। तो
हाँ।
जब मेरा जॉब शुरू हुआ तो मैं शुरू से ही ना बहुत वो था, इंथुजियास्टिक था कि भाई मेरे को काम दो, क्योंकि था थोड़ा उस
हाँ
समय
हाँ।
जोश ज्यादा था कि चाहिए मेरे को। तो भाई मैंने अपने से सीखा, मेरे को सीनियर्स बहुत अच्छे मिले कंपनी में जो मेरे को काफी अच्छे से सिखाए सब चीज। और फिर
हम्म
6 महीने मेरे को लगा होगा जब मैं हैंड होल्डिंग के हिसाब से चल रहा था। एक बार मैं
हम्म।
फ्री हो गया ना कि फिर मैंने भाई लीड करना शुरू कर दिया केपीएमजी में। मतलब तुमको लगेगा कि मैं फेक रहा हूँ, बट मैं अपने टीम में भाई
नो नो।
हाईएस्ट रेटेड एम्प्लॉय था
हाँ।
3 साल, ठीक है।
हम्म
और
हम्म
मेरा
हम्म
प्रमोशन भी बहुत अर्ली हुआ था, एकदम फटाफट मेरा सब
हम्म
चीज होते गया, क्योंकि मैं काम वैसा कर रहा था। तो
हम्म।
इंटरेस्टिंग था, मेरे को तो काफी इंटरेस्टिंग लगा, इसलिए मैं हूँ आज भी इस फील्ड में और मैं इसी फील्ड में रहूंगा। तो ये
हाँ,
फील्ड ना इंटरेस्टिंग है। यू जस्ट नीड टू बी वेरी क्यूरियस वाइल ऑडिटिंग। मैं
बट वो
ऑडिटर।
ऑडिटिंग वाले जो चीज है वो अपॉर्चुनिटी देंगे एज अ फ्रेशर सबको, वो बात भी है ना। वो एक्सपोजर देंगे वो, या उसके लिए भी कुछ अलग आपने बोला कि इंटरव्यू होता है ना उसमें भी, या हो सकता है वैसे
अरे तो
कुछ,
वो ऐसा
मतलब
है कि
चांसेस मिल सकते हैं। हाँ।
जैसे मान लो एचयूएल अपना एक क्लाइंट था, ठीक है, हिंदुस्तान
हम्म।
यूनिलीवर। अब वो थोड़ा बड़ा
हाँ
क्लाइंट है, थोड़ा ज्यादा पैसा दे रहा है, इट्स अ मोर सीरियस क्लाइंट।
हाँ।
तो वो
हम्म
मेरे मैनेजर को कहता था दैट द गाय आई वांट ऑन माय एंगेजमेंट शुड बी अ वेरी परफेक्ट वन, मतलब फालतू की चीजें वो नहीं करे आके मेरे यहाँ पे। तो वैसे लोग ना
हम्म।
इंटरव्यू करा लेते हैं, ठीक है।
हाँ ओके,
और
हाँ।
और मैं बता रहा हूँ इंटरव्यू कहाँ होता है। फॉर एग्जाम्पल एचयूएल का ही मैं एग्जाम्पल ले रहा हूँ। एचयूएल क्या करती
हम्म
थी ना, एचयूएल एज अ कंपनी, क्योंकि उनपे पैसा
हम्म
है, कैश है काफी, ठीक है। वो क्या
हम्म
करते थे,
हम्म
वो पीडब्ल्यूसी को हायर करते थे एज इंटरनल ऑडिटर्स फॉर देम, ठीक है। और केपीएमजी रहता था उनका एक्सटर्नल ऑडिटर। तो
एक्सटर्नल
वो
ऑडिटर, हाँ।
तो वो पीडब्ल्यूसी को पैसा दे रहे हैं कि भाई तू आ, तू हम लोग के इंटरनल प्रोसेसेस सारे सही कर दे, ताकि जब केपीएमजी आए ना तो उसको कुछ नहीं मिल पाए,
हाँ हाँ।
ठीक है।
ओके, हाँ। अब
तो
समझ
वहां
रहा
पे
हूँ।
वो पीडब्ल्यूसी के एक एक बंदे का 10 बार इंटरव्यू लेते थे कि जो बंदा आ रहा है शुड बी वेरी कॉम्पिटेंट, और वो एक बढ़िया ऑडिटर
हाँ।
होना चाहिए, ताकि उसको पता हो कि अगला ऑडिटर क्या मांगेगा और वो रेडी करे मेरे कंपनी में पहले से ये सारी चीजें,
हम्म।
ठीक है ना।
गॉट इट।
इस टाइप का ये पूरा
समझ गया।
इंडस्ट्री ऐसे ही चलता है, बाकी यू विल गेट टू नो वंस यू गेट इन।
हम्म
मूविंग अहेड, रिपोर्ट में देखो टेस्ट स्टेप्स आते हैं, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। टेस्ट स्टेप्स शुड
हम्म
ऑलवेज बी मेंशन्ड इन द रिपोर्ट। Second part is my observations, which I already told you. Observations and
हम्म
gaps वही हो गए more or less. इम्प्रूवमेंट एरियाज कुछ लोग मांगते हैं, कुछ नहीं मांगते हैं। जो नए क्लाइंट होते हैं, नई कंपनीज होती हैं, वो बोलते हैं कि भाई मेरे को इम्प्रूवमेंट एरिया बता दे। बट टाटा मोटर और एचयूएल जैसी कंपनी कहते हैं कि तू अपना काम करके जा, हम अपना इम्प्रूवमेंट देख लेंगे। ठीक है।
हाँ
फिर
समझ गया।
हाँ, फिर यही है, डिसाइड अपॉन
फॉलो
फॉलो अप
अप।
एक्शन विच इज माय मैनेजमेंट रिस्पॉन्स। ठीक है। री ऑडिट
हम्म
होता ही है आजकल हर कंपनी का, साल में 10-10 भाई। करेंटली आई टेल यू, सिस्को में अभी, स्प्लंक में, सिस्को
हम्म
में, वॉट एवर यू कॉल इट, मेरे इस
हम्म
साल के मेरे टीम पे 110 ऑडिट होने वाले हैं। मतलब 110 ऑडिट हमारे प्रोडक्ट्स के होने वाले हैं, विच वी नीड टू फैसिलिटेट। You can imagine the amount
110।
of work, and
गॉड।
110 audits
हाँ
for our different products। तो भाई बहुत
ओके।
आजकल चल रहा है ये। ठीक है, और इसीलिए रिक्वायरमेंट है ना
हम्म
अपना। अब तुम ही सोचो, 110
हाँ
है तो कम से कम उनको 20 बंदे तो चाहिए टीम में, कम से कम, ताकि एक एक
हाँ।
बंदा भी
एंड
पाँच
व्हाट इज द
पाँच छह
ड्यूरेशन,
घंटे के।
लाइक कितने दिन के अंदर करना है ये तो सारे ऑडिट्स?
एक साल में, एक साल का है 110।
एक साल का? ओके ओके
एक
हाँ
साल का है तो ऐसा नहीं
समझ
है कि
गया।
110 मेरे को करना है, बट मेरे पे पड़ेगा 8 9 10। ऐसे ही मेरे जैसे और पांच
हम्म
लोग पे पड़ेगा 10 10 10, तो 50 60
हम्म
70 ऐसे निकला। फिर कुछ एक आध सीनियर
हम्म
लोग को मिल जाता है, कुछ एक आध जूनियर लोग को मिल जाता है, वैसे करके। बट
हम्म।
अभी ये प्रोफेशन एकदम बूम पे है, अगले 5-6 साल तो और बूम पे रहेगा, उसके बाद का मेरे को नहीं पता। तो बट तब
नहीं
तक
तो,
आई
और
वांट
एक
टू बी एट अ सेफर
एक
साइड।
नॉर्मल चीज पूछ रहा हूँ, मतलब आउट ऑफ कॉन्टेक्स्ट, इसका एआई का ऊपर कोई इम्पैक्ट है क्या? क्योंकि मैंने जितना सुना है कि एआई यूज करके आप बहुत सारी चीजें कर सकते हो इसमें, एआई एजेंट्स यूज
यार
करके जीआरसी फील्ड में भी। हाँ।
अभी तक मैंने जितना देखा है ना, मेरे एक्सपीरियंस से अगर
हम्म,
पूछो तो नॉट एनी टाइम सून एआई हम लोग को रिप्लेस तो नहीं कर रहा है। ठीक है, फर्स्ट मेरा यही
वो
है
रिप्लेस नहीं
कि
कर सकता इसमें, हाँ।
हाँ, एनी टाइम सून तो नहीं कर रहा है। बहुत प्रोसेस वो ऑटोमेट कर सकता है, जैसे कि फॉर एग्जाम्पल मेरा एविडेंस कलेक्शन वाला पार्ट। ठीक है, कि मैंने एक क्वेरी
हम्म
डाला, मेरा एविडेंस कलेक्ट हो गया क्लाइंट से। बट अगेन प्रॉब्लम क्या है ना, कि सारे क्लाइंट्स का अलग अलग सिस्टम है। यू कैन नॉट प्रिपेयर अ जेनरिक स्क्रिप्ट या जेनरिक टूल कि तुम जो सारे क्लाइंट को अपने दे दो कि भाई तुमको ये मैंने दे दिया, मेरे को
हाँ
सारी चीजें ऑटोमेटिकली मिल जाएंगी। वो पॉसिबल ही नहीं है। दूसरा चीज,
नहीं हाँ।
कि अगर कल को अगर एआई बहुत ज्यादा यूज होने लगा, फॉर एग्जांपल इन जीआरसी, स्टिल वी वुड
हम्म
नीड समवन टू ऑडिट दैट एआई सिस्टम, राइट? एआई को एआई ऑडिट नहीं
हाँ
करेगा ना यार, एआई को तो कोई बंदा ही ऑडिट
हाँ
करेगा फिर एट द एंड ऑफ द डे। तो
हाँ
अगेन आई डोंट सी आर जॉब्स गोइंग अवे एटलीस्ट फॉर 5 years। उसके बाद का कोई
हाँ।
गारंटी नहीं है किसी का, बट 5-6 साल कोई दिक्कत नहीं है कहीं से।
और ये कम्प्लीटली तो नॉन टेक्निकल नहीं है, इसमें बहुत सारे टूल्स भी यूज हो रहे हैं, तो कम्प्लीटली नॉन टेक्निकल नहीं है ये।
बहुत टेक्निकल है ये। एट
हाँ
एट
इट्स काइंड ऑफ
द
टेक्निकल ओनली,
पोजीशन
हाँ।
दैट आई एम इन करंटली, ये मेरे को तो इतना
हाँ
टेक्निकल लगता है कि आई कैन नॉट टेल यू। शुरू शुरू में फिर भी थोड़ा नॉन टेक्निकल लगता था, नॉन टेक्निकल इन द सेंस कि
हाँ
पॉलिसीज प्रोसीजर्स ये सब भी देखता था मैं। बट नाउ लाइक आई हैव टोल्ड यू इन द वेरी फर्स्ट कॉल दैट आई वर्क विद डेवलपर्स, उनके कोड्स मैं देखता हूँ,
हम्म
प्रोडक्ट बनते समय
हाँ
ही मैं कॉम्प्लायंस डालता हूँ उसमें। तो भाई वो बहुत टेक्निकल काम है। मतलब गिटलैब,
हाँ
गिटहब, यही सब चीजें मैं देखता हूँ आजकल। तो एनीवे,
ओके हाँ।
ठीक है। उसके बाद देखो, ये
रिपोर्टिंग
रिपोर्ट फॉलो
कोलैबोरेटिव।
अप्स हो गया। ये एक पूरा ऑडिट प्लान है विच आई वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट।
हम्म
ठीक है, ये
हम्म
ऑडिट
हम्म
प्लान अच्छे से प्रिपेयर कर लेना, क्योंकि ये तुमसे लोग एक्सपेक्ट करेंगे इंटरव्यू में। सो प्रिपेयर दिस प्रिटी
ओके।
वेल। ओके।
तो मतलब ये
एंड
पॉइंट वाइज इसको एक्सप्लेन करना है या रियल टाइम एग्जांपल्स देके? ऑडिट प्लान मैंने ऐसे
mostly audit plan is mostly a milestone of what you are going to do। एग्जाम्पल वाइज
हम्म
तुमसे कोई पूछा अगर कि गिव मी एन एग्जाम्पल, आई डोंट थिंक तुमसे एग्जाम्पल पूछेगा, क्योंकि यार तुम ऑडिटर हो नहीं ना। तुम तो अभी अप्लाई करोगे
हम्म
ये सब चीजों के लिए।
हम्म
तो
हम्म
तुमसे लोग जेनरिक ही पूछेंगे कि भाई व्हाट डू यू थिंक एन ऑडिट प्लान कंप्राइजेस ऑफ, क्या होता है, नहीं होता है, कैसे करोगे फ्यूचर में। बट
हम्म
एग्जाम्पल पूछे तो भाई इसी चीज को फॉर अ क्लाइंट बता देना। है ना?
हाँ हाँ
मतलब जहां जहां भी ये ऑडिट ही लिखा है, ऐसे तो क्लाइंट का नाम लेना सही नहीं रहता है. इवन इन बिग
नहीं
फोर वी
हाँ.
आर नॉट अलाउड टू टेक क्लाइंट्स नेम आउटसाइड द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. बट नहीं पूछेगा कोई, ऐसा नहीं पूछता है. बट ये प्रोसेस जानना जरूरी है.
हम्म.
देन
ओके.
कम्स द ऑडिट एविडेंस की हाउ डू यू कलेक्ट देम. रिपोर्ट, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, स्क्रीन स्नैपशॉट्स, ये सब बहुत कॉमन है. वर्बल इंटरेक्शन बहुत कम चीजों में लेते हैं हम लोग, लेकिन कभी कभी मजबूरन लेना पड़ता है. आई डोंट प्रेफर इट. मैं वर्बल भी अगर किसी से लेता हूँ तो मैं बोलता हूँ कि यार ड्रॉप मी अ मेल ऑन दिस एज डिस्कस्ड. ये हमने डिस्कस
हाँ
किया, ये
हाँ.
मेरे को मेल पे दो. क्योंकि वर्बल बात है, तुम कल को पलट जाओगे और मेरा ऑडिट रिपोर्ट फिर वो हो जाएगा. तो
हम्म.
वर्बल इंटरैक्शन ऐसी चीज है कि इसको कभी कभी करना पड़ता है. आई हैव डन इट एज वेल. तो वहां पे मैं मेंशन करता हूँ कि एज डिस्कस्ड विद द सीसो ऑफ दिस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, वी नोटेड दैट
हम्म.
ऐसा ऐसा कि ऐसा था. ठीक है. बट अवॉइड वर्बल, स्टिक टू एटलीस्ट मेल्स.
ओके.
और इसके बाद है सोर्सेज ऑफ एविडेंस. तो वही फिजिकल कंफर्मेशन, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, इंक्वायरी, रीपरफॉर्म, ऑब्जर्वेशन. ठीक है, कुछ खास नहीं है, ये सब पढ़ लेना, हल्के में है कि तुमने कैसे देखा. कंफर्मेशन हो गया, रिटर्न रिस्पॉन्स, यही हो गया मेल का काम. डॉक्यूमेंटेशन तुम्हारा पॉलिसी वॉलिसी हो गया. ठीक है. और इंक्वायरीज तुम्हारा इंक्वायरी हो गया, जो तुम लोगों के साथ बैठ के करते हो. तो ये चीज, ये हम लोग मेंशन करते हैं एज अ टेस्ट स्टेप. इंक्वायर्ड विद द सीसो एंड नोटेड दैट ये प्रोसेस है. ठीक है.
हम्म.
Inquired with the project manager and noted that for any changes to be pushed to production, a line manager approval was required. तो ऐसे हम लोग नोट करते हैं इंक्वायरी. ठीक है. री परफॉर्मेंस वही हो गया कि रीचेकिंग अ सैंपल, और इसी टाइप का ऑब्जर्वेशन. 10 बारी मैंने बता दिया कि कोई
हम्म.
कुछ तुम वहां रह के जो तुम देख रहे हो वो ऑब्जर्व. जैसे मैंने देखा कि लोग अपना फोन ले आते हैं, तो इट्स माई ऑब्जर्वेशन, इट्स अ टाइप ऑफ एविडेंस.